Let's get her started. Here. Okay. The Ten Commandments. Exodus. Chapter 20. And you'll pray that I edit out that first part. Exodus chapter 20. Hey, Noah, grab a Bible. The one that's under the 100 Bible stories.
Oh, but I wanted that one.
That one got here. There's some extra accoutrement on the shelves that I didn't put there. I'm wondering where that came from. Ready? Alrighty, Exodus chapter 20. The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us, saying, set limits around the mountain and make it sacred. And the Lord said to Moses, go down and come back up again, bringing Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them. You guys realize something?
What?
God is speaking to Moses through the cloud, right? But he speaks about himself in the third person, right? He says, lest they break through to see the Lord. Look, you are the Lord, right? Once again, God in three people, the Trinity. God is three people and one person at the same time, and no, that doesn't make sense, but yes, that is the way it is. Okay, do not let the priests come up. So Moses went down to the people, and he told them. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Again, now he's using the first person, right? I am the Lord. Out of the house of slavery, you will have no other gods before me. What does that mean? That first rule that he gives them, you will have no other gods before me. Do you want to answer? Yeah.
Like you don't worship anything else?
Yeah, you know what it really means is you don't put anything before me, your God. Right? So it doesn't have to be like a sacred yak that you offer fruit to every morning. And if that is, it's probably not a good idea anyway. Your yak doesn't want fruit anyway. It's better eating grass. But did you know you're not supposed to feed like bananas to mules? I think that's like a thing. I didn't know. I fed it a banana. But don't put anything in front of the Lord. What about yourself? What about your own plans for the day? Huh? That's starting to get like, wait a minute. I made plans and then I did them and I didn't even ask him. Have I broken this one? Probably. You will have no other gods in front of me. You will not make for yourself a carved image or anything that's like anything that's in the heaven above, that's the sky, what's above the sky, and what's beyond what's above the sky. Everything beyond the surface of the earth, whether it's the sky or space, or get this, what's beyond space. What do you mean beyond space? Did you know that there's limits?
Space yet.
Did you know? Your science is weak, young man. Did you know that there is space that's not space? There is energy. There is a reality that you can't see, that you can't measure,
So it's
but it affects everything. And it's not the force, it's what scientists are calling dark energy. Isn't that mysterious? Anyway, God says don't take any of that junk and put it in some place to be worshipped. What's worship? Do you guys know what worship is? You know, you got to guess. You had a good guess on the last one. You got a guess on this one. What's worship? Any hands? You again.
Praise, like.
Praise is praise, right? So you're going to need more than one word to define what worship is. Otherwise, we would use that word, right? That's called the efficiency of language, by the way. It's this idea that every single word cannot be replaced with another single word because it means something slightly different, even if it's really simple. Isn't that cool? Efficiency of language. Really good thing to study. That means that every word you learn is like a tool that you wouldn't have if you didn't learn that word. So here's a new word for you. Worship. What do you mean new word? Well, now you know what it means. Worship is to give worth to something. It's worth ship. You're shipping worth to that thing. You get it? So how much is something worth? Well, what God is saying here is don't make anything worth more than I am. You get it? Everything else should seem worthless compared to me. If you've set up this thing to be worth more than me, you've broken the second commandment. You get that? So worship is not just about saying funny words and throwing, dried twigs at your favorite statue. It's not just about putting up a picture of great grandpa and, putting some fruit out for him every morning in case he's hungry. And you remember how his teeth fell out before he died, so you put not so fresh fruit, so it's nice and soft for him. But he still doesn't eat it, right? So you scoop that stuff away. People do that. But people also do things like, I could go to church on Sundays or I could work on Sundays. And I'm basically losing $100 if I don't work that day. Worth. How much is your job worth? How much is the money and you guys are kids. Honestly, you don't really know what money's worth. You know what I mean? It matters a whole lot more when you live by it. When you're like, I know exactly how much it costs for me to have a roof over my head and to have food in my stomach. You'll get there. But what are things worth to you? Think about things that are important to you. And then think about the Lord and what God wants for you. Actually, the bare minimum here. This is the law. This is the minimum. This is like not breaking the speed limit. This is not going out and stabbing somebody. This is right along the lines with tell the truth, right? Is everything that you value should be trash compared with the Lord. It should be worth less so that He gets your worth-ship. Does that make sense? Kind of makes you feel like there's a lot of room for improvement, doesn't it? You're not alone. I've been thinking about this a lot. And that's only the second thing that he said. So you'll make for yourself, you'll not make for yourself some crafted image, some carved image, or anything that's like anything in heaven above, or in the earth beneath, or that is in the water. You will not bow down to them or serve them, because I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, showing up in the iniquity of the fathers on the children, even to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. Why did I say showing up? That's what visiting means, right? Literally, if you get into, this is kind of a tricky verse here, just so you know. People stumble over this. They're like, why is God visiting the consequences of this bad behavior of people who don't value God, even to the third and fourth generation? What's that about? Because if you just read this, you're like, is this saying that God is like shipping this bad effect down the generations? Like, hey, your great grandpa was, kind of a slob and he didn't value the Lord, and now you're going to get this trouble because I'm bringing it to you. Is that what the Lord is saying here? Well, it kind of sounds like that way if you read it this way. But it kind of sounds confusing at the same time. You're like, what does this mean? Good news. I looked up the original Hebrew just for you guys. And what it means is when that stuff comes inevitably from one generation of people who don't value the Lord down to their kids, down to their grandkids, down to their great-grandkids. And they're like, great-grandpa was a rotten guy, and now I'm suffering because of it. When that happens, because of those people's decision, not because of what the Lord's doing, but because they've rejected the Lord. You get it? When that happens to those people, God is there trying to get them out of it, giving them a way out. Does that make sense? The people who don't value the Lord, even their kids and their kids' kids are suffering because of that decision, and yet the Lord is there offering them a way out. And that lines up directly with the rest of the Bible. Because if you say that, God takes this trouble and gives it to somebody else because of what their dad did, God says specifically, I don't do that. Stop saying I do that. Because he talks to some people later about it. So don't read it that way. Read it as God shows up when all this bad stuff happens. And he's like, I'm busy all the time putting families back together because you're not valuing me. Does that make sense? Do you realize that this isn't just a law that God's like, hey, I expect you to do this. He's like, do this. Don't put anything in front of me. Don't set anything up to take my place because it's ruining your whole family. And I'm there trying to fix it. That's huge. You didn't realize that he would get emotional in the middle of giving out these laws. But he's telling you, it's because of you guys that I'm telling you this. It's destroying your family. You will not bow down to them or serve them, because I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commands. So God says here, I'm trying to hold together, I'm trying to rescue these people that hate me, but I'm just pouring blessings on the people who love me. Which one do you want to be? It's your choice. How do you make that choice? Give value to the Lord. Put nothing in front of him. Seems simple, right? But there's a lot of things. And we've got this brain that's like, I kind of like Thing. And Thing doesn't ask much of me. Let's spend some time with Thing. God's like, you're making a mistake. Don't be that guy. Okay. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Is there any word here that mentions talking? It's taking, right? Not talking. What's taking a name? Well, when a girl gets married, she takes her husband's last name, right? You get that? And so she's not, my wife was not Laura Horvath anymore. She became Laura Wicks, something she really appreciated. Wicks is a nice, easy name to understand. And she practiced writing her new name, She's taken up her new name. That was pretty cute. But what if she got married to me and she becomes Laura Wicks? And she keeps living in her old house, never moves in with me. She doesn't talk to me. She doesn't go anywhere with me. People ask her about me and she's like, oh, I don't know that guy. And they're like, but aren't you Laura Wicks? Isn't Casey Wicks your husband? And she's like, I guess. It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it's just like your opinion, man. I mean, can you imagine how jealous I would be? I'll tell you right away. I'd be super jealous. I would make sure that she understood that she was Laura Wicks, and everybody understood that she was Laura Wicks, and she's my wife, and, this is my woman. And I'm her man. That's what this is like. Do not take the name of the Lord. Right? We call ourselves Christians today. I'm a Christian, right? Don't let that mean nothing. Don't let that not mean that you're his, right? Take up that name, take up that reputation of the Lord. Be his people. Be his people. Don't let it not matter. That's what he's saying. Yeah? Never mind. Okay. Moving on. You guys didn't learn the commandments like this before. All right. This is Heresy 101. Go over all this stuff with your parents. Hey, he said it says this, but he said it actually means this. Yeah, right. Talk about this with your parents. This is good stuff. Okay. By the way, whenever I explain something to you guys, don't take my word for it. Study the Bible for yourselves. And I'm really excited that a lot of you guys are doing just that. You're studying on your own, and you're reading into this stuff. Try and figure it out for yourself. Because sometimes they'll tell you stuff that's actually wrong. And then like, that was wrong. And I didn't correct myself. So keep that in mind that I'm an idiot. But let's move on.
I'm an idiot.
Let's move on.
Wow.
Did you know the word idiot means someone who does not know? So when I say something that's wrong and I don't even realize it's wrong, that's me being an idiot. Okay. Next on the list. Remember Shabbat to keep it holy. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Okay. So remembering, this literally means that you're going to do it at the right time every time. And you're also going to remember what it means that you're doing. God doesn't just want the Sabbath to be a thing that we do just because we do it. He wants them to remember why. So question. We don't have this commandment, this is commandments to the nation of Israel. God never gave the 10 commandments to the church, right? This is for Jewish guys and gals. Does he still feel this way about all these things? Is this still the right way to live? Yeah. So what's the deal with the Sabbath? What do you remember about the Sabbath? Anybody? What's the deal with the Sabbath? Tell me, Noah. What do you know about the Sabbath? Just anything. Have you forgotten? Have you forgotten the Sabbath?
No.
No. What do you remember? Stuff. So, the idea with Sabbath. Should you work really hard on Sabbath day?
No.
Or is it a day for taking it easy? It's a day for taking it easy. Is it a day for staying in bed all day and never changing out of your pajamas and just laying around and doing nothing?
No.
As appealing as that seems to me, that's not exactly what it's about.
It's about resting.
Do you know what the word Shabbat or Sabbath means? Do you want to know? Sabbath means to quit, to take a break. It's literally like if you're working with some tools like a hammer and nails, and you take your tools and you put them down. It really means to stop working. But what could that have to do with, say, the gospel, the good news of Jesus? That you stop working and do what? Stop using your own work and let the Lord stand up for you. You get it?
I kind of just read ahead.
Isn't that cool?
Then I realized that.
Yeah. Okay. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you will work. You'll labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Shabbat to the Lord your God. On it you will not do any work, or your son or your daughter, or the guy that works for you, or the gal that works for you, or your animals. Right? Hey, doggo, you don't have to chase rats today, you know? You come in here, actually don't come in here, you're dirty, you got fleas all over. You just hang out there, but take it easy today. Or your animals, or the guy who's passing through, who's in your area, right? Hey, you got any work today? Not today, but come here, hang out with us. We're taking it easy, right? This is a day where nobody works. What do you mean a day where nobody works? Well, we got this belief that the Lord commands us to go ahead and go for it 6 days, and on the 7th day, it's all about Him, and we take it easy. Seems kind of weird. Why would you do that? You see how relaxed we are today? It's not a bad place to start. You would be amazed at how much help following this rule is. And again, this isn't like an optional thing for these guys. The Lord is like, you do this and I'll bless you. You don't do this and I'll curse you because you're my people. So that's what's going down here. Okay. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and He made it holy. Holy is something really special just for Him. Honor your father and mother, that your days might be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. So this one, it's the first law that's given with a reason why. Have you noticed how, like, all these other ones, he's just like, do this, do that, you know. He tells you to keep the Sabbath holy, and he really, like, explains what the Sabbath is, just in case you were wondering. But with honor your father and mother, he says, look, if you do this, here's exactly what I'll do for you. You'll live a nice long life. That's kind of cool. Okay, I'm down with that. I got things I want to do before I die. How exactly do I honor my father and mother? You know what? Some of the ways that seem right to me are not the right way to do it. And the best way to honor your father and mother is to get in touch with the Lord and ask Him how to honor your father and mother. But you know what it starts with? Obedience. It starts with respect. It starts with doing as you're told. You know, assuming that your parents aren't having you do things like stab people or rob banks. You know, if it's not something that's just morally wrong, I think we've talked about this before, just do it. They're in charge. That's the way it is. And the Lord says, you'll live a nice long life in the land if you do that. You will not murder. Some people translate this as all killing is wrong, but that's not. I mean, obviously the rest of the Bible, God is like specifically telling people to kill certain people. Like, hey, that guy who went out and picked up firewood on the Sabbath, kill him, right? So obviously, I don't know if this is probably not news to you guys, but it's news to certain people in the world. God's not an idiot. Neither is He insane. In fact, He's super intelligent. And the word here is murder. You will not murder people. And I don't think you have to ask too hard, like, what exactly is murder, you know? Because right before, I was just thinking about stabbing somebody, and I just want to make sure I'm on the right page here. If you have a hard time understanding what that is, you need help. Now, you will not commit adultery. Ask adults what that is. Ask your parents. But actually, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. He's going to tell. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to thoroughly teach you underage kids about adultery. Are you ready? Let me demonstrate it. I have a glass half full of lemonade. I have a glass half full of water. Careful now. This is really contentious stuff. You better share this with your parents that I told you this. Half full lemonade, half full of water. Pure lemonade, pure water. I mixed the water with the lemonade. Oh, scandalous. I've just committed adultery. Mixing things that don't belong together.
I thought there was water.
Is adultery. Watering down something that's good by itself with something that it doesn't need is adultery. Taking what God says and making it mean something else just by using some fancy language is adultery. And making mommy-daddy time with somebody that's not mommy is adultery. You will not steal. Interesting that he follows that up. Don't mix things that don't belong together, and don't steal. What if I sold you a ton of grain at the price that a ton of grain is worth so you can feed your sheep? But you start unloading the cart, and halfway down is not grain, but rocks. I've committed adultery. I've mixed rocks with that good grain. You're like, please stop saying adultery. My cheeks don't pink any harder. But that's also theft. I'll put this to you. Every form of adultery, every form of mixing things that don't belong together is theft. It's theft wrapped up in a lie. Don't steal. You will not bear false witness against your neighbor. Bear false witness. Why doesn't God just say don't lie? Well, it's funny you should ask. Everything is either true or false. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that true or is it false?
That's true.
I think everything is either true or false. That's just the way I look at the world. Either it is or it is not. Right? You can't have something that's both true and false in the same circumstance. Right?
True or
like
false?
either my hand is here or it's not. But you're like, well, according to atomic theory, like 99.999% of your hand is empty space. And I say to you, good job on the atomic theory, but it's here, right? A light bulb, right? Either it's making light or it's not. Either it's receiving power or it's not. Either it's on or it's off. Even if it's dim, that's a form of on, right? So, if you are carrying your words about someone, if you're sharing information about someone, or to someone, or in response to something, it needs to always, always be true, or be nothing at all. You're allowed to not answer, right? You're allowed to say, I don't know. You're not allowed to say something that's not true. People argue about what a lie is. Well, I didn't lie, I was just wrong. But you knew that you didn't know and you guessed and you didn't tell the person that you were guessing. Guess what that is? It's very obviously false. And you were giving a witness. You were telling someone something. You will not give false witness. I don't know. I'm not sure. Those things are okay. Make a guess. Okay, here's my best guess. That's okay. False witness. Not good. Okay. You will not covet your neighbor's house. You'll not covet his wife, or the guy that works for him, or the girl that works for him, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. Sometimes it sounds like God's talking to a kid, right? Hey, pay attention. Listen. Don't want your neighbor's house. Don't want his stuff. Don't want his wife. Don't want the guy that works for him. Don't want the girl that works for him. Don't wish you had, like, if you've ever, like, worked with people and you've seen, like, other teams that work really well, you're like, man, I wish that person was on my team. It's a stupid thought. Stop thinking it. How do you stop thinking a stupid thought? How do you stop feeling a certain way? You guys realize this? This is the first law. It's not about what you say. It's not about what you do. It's not about what you give or what you take. It's about what you feel. So who can convict you of feeling something? Who can prove that you felt a certain way? Only somebody that knows everything that's inside your heart. All these other rules, you can take somebody to court and be like, guilty or innocent. You can prove these things. How do you prove that somebody really wanted something? You can get evidence, right? You can guess. But only the Lord, as the Bible says, knows the hearts of people. This law you break in your heart. And you realize it in your heart. And you have to deal with the only person that saw you do that. Because the only person that knows how you feel is the Lord. This law is only possible to break to Him. And it's only possible to make up between you and Him. And it's really bringing you to the point of all these laws. You're a lawbreaker. You need to get right with the Lord. Does that make sense? Okay. You will not covet. Now, when all the people saw the thunder and the flashes of lightning and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, the people were terrified, and they were shaking in fear. And they stood far off, and they said to Moses, "Hey, you talk to us and we'll listen, but don't let God talk to us or we'll die." Moses said to the people, "Don't be afraid." Ooh, that's cool. You know he's close to the Lord when his first answer is, "Don't be afraid." Jesus was always showing up and being like, "Hey guys, don't freak out, right? Chill." Literally he says, "Peace, shalom." Chill. Moses says, Just relax. God has come to squeeze you, to bend you to the breaking point, to test you, to arm wrestle you, right? He's come to test you that the fear of him could be before you. What's that mean? Have you ever gotten beat so badly at something that you realize you could never beat the person that beat you? Like sometimes I'm thinking about, like, I always think of video games because that's like 80% of my life. Is that an idol? But you like go to some area and you're like level 1 and there's the end boss dragon and you're like, wait, how did they let me get here? And it kills you in one hit. And you're like, maybe if I reload my save and I get really lucky with my attack rolls. No, you're just like, okay, I really need to level up before I face that guy. But the Lord here, he says, look, I brought you here so I could just like wreck you guys in this test of strength. So I could show up and I could show you how I'm just way stronger than all you guys. God showed up to pwn these people so that they would remember how fearsome he is, how undefeatable he is. You want to be on his side, or you want to be on his bad side? So that's the purpose that he did this. The people stood far off while Moses drew near to the darkness where God was. And the Lord says to Moses, "This you will say to the people of Israel, you've seen for yourselves that I've talked with you from heaven." So this first giving of the 10 Commandments, apparently, God said it and all the people heard. And it scared the bejesus out of them. I'd be terrified, especially why? As he's saying these things, speaking words of truth and setting his standard up on the mountain, I realize how far below him I am. And I see that he's so terrifying just telling us what to do and what not to do that I feel like if he says another word, I'll die. And God says, that's exactly how I want you to feel. Really interesting. The fear of the Lord. Okay. You will not make gods of silver to be with me, nor will you make for yourselves gods of gold. An altar of earth you will make for me, and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings. I want you to use the ground as my altar, God says here. Your sheep and your oxen, in every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I will come to you and bless you. If you make an altar out of stone, you're not going to build it out of like stones that you cut and shape. None of the work of your hands. You get it? No fancy gold altar, no fancy silver altar. Use the dirt. And if you're going to use rock, use a rock that's already there. Use a rock that you haven't touched. Not the works of the hands of a man will be the altar of the Lord. What's the message there? An altar of earth. That speaks of humanity. God made mankind out of the dust of the ground, and he called him Adam, clay, right? He called the guy Dusty. and Jesus came down to the earth and was born as a baby human being. He became Adam. He became a man, a human. The rock that has nothing to do with the works of the hands of mankind. Who is that rock that followed them through the wilderness? The Lord Jesus Christ, as we hear later in the Bible. Okay. If you make me an altar of stone, you will not build it out of worked stones, right? Ones that you chip away and shape. Because if you use a tool on it, you're going to mess it up. You're going to profane it. You'll make it just a regular rock if you do that. I don't want you to touch it. And you will not go up by steps to my altar so that your nakedness would not be exposed on it. Well, I guess that's all there is to know about that. That's the end of the chapter.
Cut.
Cut!